Do you like mysteries? To wander through the enigmatic mist of the inexplicable? Great. I'm Merc, and here you'll find what you're looking for. Welcome to my domains. The truth dissolves into the mist.
There is a stretch of road in northern Spain where the line between reality and legend wears thin. The E-40 highway cuts through the remote regions of Castile and Leon, a lonely ribbon of asphalt under an immense sky. By day, it is a passage for freight and travel. But by night, under a canopy of stars untouched by city lights, it becomes something else. It becomes a stage for a story so strange, so consistently reported, that it has earned a permanent place in the shadows of Spanish folklore. This is not a ghost story from a dusty book. It is a phantom witnessed by modern eyes, a recurring anomaly logged in police reports and newspaper columns. It is the tale of the ghost bus of the E-40, a vehicle that should not exist, traveling a road it never officially served, and appearing only to those who travel alone in the dead of night. The phenomenon began subtly in the late 1980s and early 1990s, whispered among the fraternity of long-haul truckers. They were men familiar with every curve and gradient of the road, masters of the nocturnal landscape. Their accounts were not fueled by superstition, but by weary pragmatism. The reports were always the same. A driver, alone in his cabin with only the hum of his engine and the glow of his dashboard for company, would see the distant glow of taillights ahead. As he drew closer, the shape would resolve into that of an old, rounded intercity bus, a model from the 1960s or early 70s, painted in faded, nondescript colors. It would be traveling at a steady, legal speed, but with one profoundly unsettling detail: its headlights were completely off. Driving on a dark highway without headlights is not just illegal, it is a physical impossibility, a suicide run. Yet there it would be, a dark silhouette against the night, a rolling void. The truckers would flash their high beams, a universal signal to turn on your lights. The bus would not respond. Some would pull alongside, peering into the passenger windows, only to see the interior dark, the seats seemingly empty. And then, at the crest of a hill, or rounding a gentle curve, the bus would simply vanish. It would not speed away. It would not turn off onto an exit. One moment, it was a solid object in the lane ahead. The next, the road was empty, stretching into the blackness. These stories were dismissed as fatigue, the trickery of tired eyes on monotonous roads. That changed in the summer of 1994, with an incident that forced the legend into the light. A group of 5 university students from Madrid were driving back from a festival late at night on the E-40, near the town of Burgos. Their car, a small hatchback packed with bags and sleeping bags, began to experience engine trouble, sputtering to a stop on the gravel shoulder. As they popped the hood, baffled by the sudden failure, they saw the glow of headlights approaching from behind. It was a bus, an antique model, its body a dull green. To their relief, it slowed and pulled over ahead of them. The doors hissed open, revealing a warmly lit interior, empty of passengers. The driver, a man in a dark uniform and cap, his face in shadow, leaned out. He asked in a neutral, calm tone if they needed help. Grateful, the students explained their predicament. The driver offered them a ride to the next service station, just a few kilometers ahead. 4 of the students, tired and frustrated, gratefully climbed aboard. One of them, a young man named Luis, stayed behind to wait with the car, promising to get a tow truck from the station. The 4 friends took seats midway down the bus. The doors closed, the engine revved with a sound that was oddly muffled, and the bus pulled back onto the highway. The interior was impeccably clean, but had a strange, static quality, the air still and scentless. They chatted quietly among themselves for what felt like 10, maybe 15 minutes. Then, one of them looked out the window and realized they were still on the same stretch of road, passing the same distinctive, gnarled tree they had noted when they broke down. He mentioned it to the others. A cold silence fell over the group. They looked forward. The driver's seat was empty. The bus was driving itself. Panic erupted. They rushed to the front, but the steering wheel moved by unseen hands. The doors would not open. They began to scream, pounding on the windows. At that moment, the bus's interior lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. The vehicle began to slow. It came to a gentle, final stop. With a final hiss, the doors opened onto the familiar gravel shoulder. Stumbling out, they found themselves mere meters from their own broken-down car, where their friend Louis stood, white as a sheet, staring at them in abject terror. He had watched, he said, as the bus pulled away with his friends, only to see its taillights grow faint, then blink out of existence entirely. He had been screaming into his dead cell phone for 20 minutes, convinced they were gone forever. For him, only seconds had passed between the bus vanishing and it reappearing. The bus itself was gone, leaving no trace on the asphalt. The students filed a report with the Guardia Civil. Their story was investigated, but no bus matching that description on that route from any known company could ever be found. This incident transformed the legend. It was no longer a trick of the light for weary truckers. It was an interactive phenomenon, a pocket of warped reality that could be entered, and could, perhaps, choose not to let you leave. What was this bus? A collective hallucination on a mass scale, a ghostly replay of a tragic accident lost to time, or something far more intentional, a vehicle not bound by the rules of our road, or our reality, picking up passengers for a journey with an unknown destination. Consider the road itself. The E-40 in those stretches is ancient, a modern highway laid over old drovers' roads, Roman roads, pathways that have seen millennia of travel, pilgrimage, and death. History is layered there like sediment. Psychologists speak of stone tape theory, the idea that emotional or traumatic events can imprint themselves on a location, replaying like a recording. Could the phantom bus be such an echo, a moment of mass transit tragedy trapped in a loop? Yet an echo does not interact. It does not open its doors. It does not offer a ride. This leads us down a darker, more speculative path. In esoteric traditions, some places are considered thin places, where the barrier between worlds is fragile. They are not always ancient stone circles or misty glens. Sometimes they are mundane, like a lonely highway under a vast sky. Could the E-40, in its very loneliness and linear purpose, act as such a conduit? And if so, is the bus a lost ghost, or is it a vehicle from the other side, a scheduled service on a route we were never meant to see? The students who boarded it did not see ghostly passengers or a spectral driver until the very end. They saw a clean, functional, empty bus. It felt real. It felt solid. This is the core of the terror. It presents itself not as a shimmering apparition, but as a plausible solution to a mundane problem, a helpful stranger in the night. It is a trap dressed as salvation. This interactivity is what separates it from a simple haunting. It seeks engagement. After the 1994 incident, reports did not cease. They evolved. The ghost bus became a staple of Spanish paranormal media, a story that invited both skepticism and obsessive investigation. Journalists and paranormal researchers scoured archives, looking for a real-world catalyst, a fatal bus crash on the E-40 that could have birthed the legend. While several accidents were found, none perfectly matched the vintage of the bus or the specific interactive nature of the sightings. The lack of a clear origin story made it more potent, more elusive. It was a ghost without a grave. Then, in the early 2000s, a new type of witness came forward. Equipped with technology the truckers of the 90s lacked dashcams and early mobile phones. Their testimonies added disturbing layers to the mythos. Several drivers claimed that when they attempted to film the bus or photograph it, their devices would malfunction. The dashcam footage would show a clear stretch of road, then static, then the road again, with the bus absent from the recording. One driver insisted his phone, which he was using for GPS, rebooted spontaneously as he passed the spot where the bus vanished. These were not just visual sightings anymore. They were encounters that seemed to interfere with electronic reality, suggesting an entity that existed partly outside our physical laws. The most chilling modern account comes from 2015. A French couple on a road trip was driving the E-40 at around 3 a.m. They saw the classic outline of the old bus ahead, no lights. Annoyed, the husband, Pierre, decided to follow it at a safe distance, determined to get its license plate number and report it to the authorities. For nearly 10 kilometers, the bus maintained its speed. Pierre's wife, Claire, filmed it on her phone. In the video, which was later shared on a local paranormal forum, the bus is clear but eerily dark. Then, as they approached a known viewing point for the Milky Way, the bus's brake lights glowed red. It signaled a right turn onto a narrow, unmarked dirt road that neither traveler remembered seeing before, a road not on any map. Against his wife's pleas, Pierre, gripped by a sudden compulsive curiosity, turned to follow. The dirt road was smooth, unnaturally so. The bus ahead kicked up no dust. After a minute, the road ended abruptly at a small, circular clearing, surrounded by pine trees. The bus was parked, its doors open, interior dark. The couple sat in their car, engine idling, terrified. They saw a figure step out of the bus. It was not the shadowy driver, but a man in 1960s-era clothing, carrying a small suitcase. He walked, without looking at them, to the edge of the clearing and simply faded from view, like smoke dissipating. The bus doors closed. Then, the bus itself began to grow transparent, from the rear forward, until there was nothing left but the empty clearing. The couple sped back to the highway in a panic. When they reviewed Claire's phone, the video file was corrupted, showing only the first few seconds of the bus on the main road before dissolving into digital noise. This account introduces a terrifying possibility. What if the bus is not just a haunted object, but a functional transit system for other kinds of passengers? What if the figures seen inside, or those who disembark, are not ghosts of the dead, but something else entirely? Entities using this stable, recurring phenomenon as a bus stop on a journey we cannot comprehend. The clearing, the dressed man from another time, the purposeful disappearance. It paints a picture of a scheduled stop on a phantom route. This moves the legend from the realm of random haunting into something resembling a system, a logistics of the unreal. So, we are left with 3 equally unsettling interpretations, layered over the same stretch of Spanish asphalt. The first is the psychological explanation. Highway hypnosis, sleep deprivation, and the power of suggestion are potent forces. Once the legend took root, every strange reflection or distant vehicle could be folded into the myth. The human mind excels at pattern recognition, even when no pattern exists. It seeks to make sense of the unknown by forcing it into a known narrative, the ghost bus story. The second is the paranormal echo, a tragic event, its emotional shockwave so strong it etched itself into the location. The bus replays its final journey, an endless loop of departure without arrival, occasionally pulling in bystanders who, by chance or fate, resonate with its frequency. The third, and most disquieting, is the idea of a dimensional overlap, that the E-40, in specific conditions of isolation, darkness, and perhaps a certain state of mind in the witness, becomes a temporary bridge. The bus is not a ghost of our past, but a functioning vehicle from a parallel present or a tangled timeline. its route occasionally, and catastrophically, intersecting with our own. Its passengers are not dead, they are just from elsewhere. This turns the highway from a simple road into a potential crossing point, a zone of transit for things that should remain separate. What makes the ghost bus of the E-40 endure is its mundane horror. It is not a howling spectre or a decaying corpse. It is a bus, an ordinary, everyday object out of place and out of time. It exploits our innate trust in public transport, in scheduled services, in the social contract of the road. It presents itself as part of the system, only to reveal it operates under a completely different and terrifying set of rules. The next time you find yourself on a long, dark highway, watching the taillights of the vehicle ahead, consider this. When you glance at your GPS, does it show your location correctly? When you look back at the road, are the taillights still the same color, the same shape? Or has the vehicle ahead grown a little older, a little darker, its windows a little more black, like voids in the night? The E-40 is just a road. But roads are not just pavement. They are corridors of movement, of memory, and sometimes of transition. Some routes are mapped, others are not. And some vehicles, it seems, do not need headlights, because they are not traveling towards a destination you would recognize. They are on a different schedule, one written in no timetable, serving stops in places that do not exist on any map, picking up passengers for journeys from which there might be no return. All you can do is hope your path does not converge with theirs, and that if you see the dark shape of an old bus with its lights off, you have the will to slow down, to let the distance grow, and to let it disappear into the night from which it came, without you inside.
Did you like this mystery? And what is your theory? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, then like and share. I'm Merc, and I'll be waiting for you in the next mystery.